There's a glass of milk on the counter. Skim, fat-free. The one on the carton that looks like the healthy choice. And out of every kind of dairy you could put in your body, that exact glass has the strongest link to acne in the research. Not whole milk, not cheese, the skim. That alone should tell you something is off about the story you've been told. Because the story goes like this. Dairy causes acne, so cut out dairy and your skin clears up. And for some people, it genuinely works. But plenty of others quit milk, quit cheese, white-knuckle it for 2 months, and nothing changes. So what's going on? Here's the part almost nobody tells you. It's not just whether you drink milk, it's the kind. Skim versus whole, cow versus goat, fresh versus fermented. Those aren't small details. They can flip the whole equation. By the end of this, you'll have a menu of things you can actually test on your own skin. Let's be fair to the dairy theory first, because it didn't come from nowhere. In 2018, researchers pooled 14 studies, more than 78,000 people. People who drank milk had meaningfully higher odds of acne, and the more they drank, the stronger the link got. Skim milk raised the odds the most, so the connection is real. But here's the first crack. In those same studies, cheese barely moved the needle, and yogurt was all over the place. It was milk, specifically, doing the work. If this were really about dairy, cheese and yogurt should light up just as brightly. They don't. So it's not dairy as a category, it's something inside milk. And to find it, we have to talk about what milk is for. Most people assume it's the lactose, the milk sugar. It's almost certainly not. Because people switch to lactose-free milk, and it usually doesn't help, the lactose is gone, the proteins are still there. And the proteins are where the story lives. Remember what milk actually is. It's the one substance in nature designed to take a tiny newborn and make it grow fast. Milk is basically a liquid growth signal, and it works through 2 messengers. The first is insulin. Milk spikes it surprisingly hard. The second is the real main character, IGF-1, insulin-like growth factor 1. Think of it as the body's master grow messenger. Milk raises it from 2 directions at once. The insulin spike nudges IGF-1 up, and the milk proteins, especially whey, are packed with an amino acid called leucine, which acts like rocket fuel for growth signaling. And here's where it converges. Both IGF-1 and leucine push on the same control center inside your cells. Scientists call it mTOR. Just picture a switch labeled build mode. Flip it, and the cell goes into construction. Grow, multiply, produce. Now, where do you have some of the most hormone-sensitive tissue you own? Your skin. Specifically, the tiny oil glands inside your pores. Flip those into build mode, and they do exactly what they're told. They pump out more oil. The cells lining the pore divide faster and clog the opening, and the whole system tips toward inflammation. Oil plus clogging plus inflammation. That's the exact recipe for a breakout. And milk just handed your skin all 3 ingredients at once. Which explains our opening mystery. Why skim? You'd assume taking the fat out makes milk cleaner. But the acne signal was never in the fat. It's in the proteins and the hormonal punch, and skim delivers those just as hard. The extra processing to stop skim tasting like water may even concentrate the stuff driving the insulin spike. So the healthy, low-fat choice isn't dodging the problem. It's leaning into it. Now for the part that gives you options. Because not all milk sends the same signal, and it can come down to the cow itself. Most supermarket cow's milk is high in a protein called A1 beta-casein. When you digest it, it releases a tiny opioid-like fragment called BCM7. And in lab studies, BCM7 nudges the immune system toward inflammation. There's a second version, A2 beta-casein, that doesn't release it at all. Here's the useful part. Goat's milk, sheep's milk, and milk from Jersey cows are naturally almost entirely A2, no A1. Effectively, no BCM7. Goat's milk in particular sits closer to human milk, tends to be easier to digest, and is lower in the proteins most likely to provoke a reaction. Which is why some people who break out on regular cow's milk find goat's milk far less of a problem. But let's not turn one switch into a miracle. Almost none of the A1 versus A2 work has been tested directly in acne trials. This is mechanism, not proof. Goat's milk still carries its own IGF-1 punch, and sheep's milk is actually richer in fat and protein. So for some people, it behaves a lot like cow's milk. So switch to goat and you're bulletproof overshoots. The honest version is gentler. For some people, A2 milk provokes less of the inflammatory side. That's a real lever. It just isn't a cure. And there's a stranger thread. Newer and more speculative, so hold it loosely. Cow's milk contains a folate binding protein that looks almost identical, around 90%, to a receptor inside your own body that ferries folate where it's needed. In some people, the immune system gets confused by the resemblance and makes antibodies against it. Folate receptor autoantibodies. And those same antibodies can partly block your own folate from doing its job. Why does that land here? Because folate is one of the quiet workhorses of healthy skin, central to building new cells and renewing that outer surface layer. And the cross-reaction appears strongest with cow's milk. Goat's milk seems to trigger it far less. So that's potentially a second, separate way cow's milk could be rougher on skin than goat's. Not through oil and hormones, but by quietly nudging down a vitamin your skin needs to repair itself. Big caveat. Most of this research comes from outside dermatology and hasn't been mapped cleanly onto acne yet, so file it under fascinating and worth watching, not settled. But it's one more reason the type of milk may matter more than the simple yes or no. There's one more variable, and it's the most experiment-friendly of all. What happens to the milk before it reaches you? When milk becomes kefir, yogurt, or aged cheese, bacteria essentially pre-digest it. A chunk of the lactose is gone. The IGF-1 load comes down, and you pick up probiotics on top, which, through the gut-skin connection, may steer inflammation down instead of up. That fits what the big studies hinted at all along. Milk drove the acne signal, but cheese and yogurt mostly didn't. It's not a free pass. A sugary-flavored yogurt erases the whole advantage because that sugar spikes the same insulin and IGF-1. But a plain kefir, or a plain live culture yogurt, is a genuinely different thing for your skin than a tall glass of skim. So step back, because here's where just cut out milk finally falls apart. Milk isn't the only thing that flips on build mode. It's one switch on a wall covered in switches. That same insulin and IGF-1 surge, you also get it from sugar and refined carbs. White bread, soda, the 3 o'clock pastry. One of the few real controlled experiments in this field found that lowering the sugar load of the diet improved people's acne. No dairy changes required. So picture two people. Both cut out milk. The first was mostly reacting to that growth signal, and the rest of their habits are calm. Skin clears. The second ditches milk, but is still on a blood sugar roller coaster all day. Same switch, different finger flipping it. Their skin doesn't budge. And they decide diet doesn't matter. Both learned the wrong lesson from the same experiment. And one more bit of honesty. Almost all of this evidence is observational. It can't prove milk causes acne on its own, and there's still no big gold standard trial. But here's the most elegant clue we have. There's a rare genetic condition where the body essentially can't make that IGF-1 growth signal at all. And the people who have it share a striking trait. They effectively don't get acne. Take the signal away, and the acne goes with it. That's about as close to a smoking gun as this field has come, and it points straight at the pathway, not at any single food on your plate. So where does this leave you? In front of the fridge? Not with a rule. With a ladder you can test, from strongest signal to gentlest. At the top, the loudest signal, fresh cow's milk, especially skim, especially in large daily amounts. A step gentler, A2 milk. Goat, sheep, or Jersey cow. Same calories without the A1 fragment. Gentler still, fermented. Plain kefir, plain live culture yogurt, aged cheese. Less lactose, less IGF-1, probiotics in the plus column. The move isn't to torch every dairy product on day one, it's to run a calm experiment. Some people find a few weeks swapping skim for goat's milk or fresh milk for kefir tells them everything they need to know. And if the skin doesn't respond, that's information too. It points the finger back at the rest of the pathway, the sugar, the refined carbs, the overall load. And if you want to see what's happening under the hood, this is one of those cases where extensive blood work, the kind that goes deeper than the standard once-a-year panel, can show you your own picture instead of a population average. What reads as normal on a lab printout is built from everyone. It isn't necessarily optimal for you. Take what's useful here and leave what isn't. Your skin is yours. All of this is just a map. The real takeaway is smaller and stranger than milk is the enemy. Milk is one loud voice in a conversation your hormones are already having. For some people, quieting that voice, or swapping it for a gentler one, is enough. For others, it was never the main speaker. Either way, you're no longer guessing in the dark. If this reframed how you think about your skin, save it somewhere you'll find it again. And if you want the next layer pulled apart, the sugar side, the gut-skin connection, or that folate thread on its own, drop it in the comments. That's usually where the next video comes from.